Welcome back, Heineken's Module 1, Lesson 7. And in this lesson, we're going to start to explore these first two options within the drawings panel. And as a reminder, if you do not see this, for whatever reason, click on your profile up here and make sure that this is toggled on, toggled back on. All right, that's important. Cool. So you might have noticed that for so far with the videos we've covered, I use this cursor. As I'm moving my mouse around, you see it is a crosshair. Now, the reason why I use it and some other trainers and traders use it is that you can actually see on which candle where the price is. So you always get that XY axis. Now, let's start having a look at some of these first ones. Now, what you'll do is just hover over any of these, and you'll see that a little arrow, right pointing arrow appears, and that'll expand a menu for each of these. Now, let's click on the first one. And we're not going to go through every single option that is here within and then the sub options, but we're going to be going through these. Why? Just to get yourselves familiar with the different tools that are available. And we're going to start to favorite or add them to a drawings panel favorites bar, which is very, very handy. Now let's have a look at this. So the first one is cursors. Very simply, what do you want to utilize? You want to use the cross like I have? Do you want to utilize a dot or an arrow? That is entirely up to you. These others you can play around with as well, but the most common ones are generally either the cross or an arrow when you're trying to move around and look at things or point things out. So what we're going to do starting off, as you hover over the name, like we saw with the candles as well as the time frames, is a little star appears. Now, as soon as you click that, it's going to add it to your favorites. Now, where is your favorites list? Well, there it just appeared. Right? What I'm going to do is deselect this, and you can have a look and see it disappears. But as soon as you've added one to your favorites toolbar, you'll also notice that in the bottom left-hand corner, a little star appears. So if I hit that, it'll make it disappear, hit it again, and it reappears. You can click and drag this around. But for now, let's have a quick look at how we can add a few more. Now, if you feel that the dot is your preferred one, or you want to switch between, or you want to switch between arrow and a cross, you just highlight those. Now at the moment, obviously, you can see I've got a crosshair selected, but also the tool that is being used is also in blue. All right, so a little bit of blue there. If I switch between the two, all right, there's my arrow. It's now the arrow is in blue. Simple, lovely. If you want to be able to then remove that from your favorites, you can literally click on that star and it will disappear. All right, so let's leave it there for the moment. You don't want to favorite everything that's available here because it ends up being a very long toolbar, whereas you could literally just go into each of these menu options. Now, let's have a quick look at some of these next ones. All right, so this is all to do with, collapse that, expand that, Trendline tools, probably one of the most utilized of all of the tools that are here. And let's have a look and see what is inside. Now, as mentioned, we won't be covering every single one in each of these menus. We're going to cover just from a basics point of view, which are the more commonly used ones. But also bear in mind that in much later modules, when we start to look at advanced TA or even basic TA, technical analysis, is that we'll start looking at some of these ones down here, etc. But for the moment, we'll be looking at these. So trend line is a very simple line that's between 2 points. All right. There it is dictated. So I'm going to click on it. And then later I'll add it to my favorites and you will see what it does. You're also going to notice that certain of all of these drawing tools have certain shortcuts. Okay, not in that collection there or in this one. But you will start to see that some of them have basic keyboard shortcuts. Now, let's start up here. So I'm using a Mac. If you're on a PC, instead of the option little symbol, which Mac users will know, it will be the word Alt. All right, like on Alt Control Delete, that Alt, right? That'll be there. So I'm going to select this. It hasn't been added to my favorites because I didn't add a star to it. And what you can start to see, again, anywhere that you want to click, I'm going to click right there. And as you move your mouse around, right, you can start to draw a trend line very simply. You can expand it as far as you want. You can change directions. And I'm going to just draw a trend line just right there. And I'm going to click again with my mouse or trackpad. And now I've got these 2 points, beginning point and an end point. What it also does is that it shows you that this line is currently selected, right? How do I know that? You can see the little blue bauble and that one up there. It means it's currently selected, as well as popping up its own individual editing plate, format plate, if you like, that enables you to change a variety of different things. Now, while this is selected, if you were to click on either this bauble or this bauble, you can click on it with your left mouse button, click and drag it, and you can rearrange, you can move it however you want. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, as you also hover over it, you can see that there's a little add text that starts to appear. Now, you can click on that and you can add text, or like most of these other tools that we're going to get into with this formatting plate that's up here or formatting status bar, you can change a number of things. If you're not sure what something is, hover over it. All right. Okay. These might be some of the templates that are preset already, but most of the time, it's a very simple click, click. That is where you want to start. If you'd like to change the color, you want to change it to whatever you like, a primary, whatever, that's fantastic. You can even add text, which will be, I'll get into the settings now, but the text line or the text color or the font color will be up here, which we'll get into. But you can also change then the thicknesses. Pretty standard within TradingView that you've got 4 different choices. These are all 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 3 pixel, 4 pixel, depending on the thickness that you like. You can make it thicker or thinner. You can also change the style. Again, generally 3 options within TradingView: align, dash line, dotted line. So those are options. You want to change that. That's great. Now, we will be getting into alerts in a later module within TradingView. So we'll get to that. You can also delete any trend line, any drawing tool that you add. If it is selected, you can either click that or you can literally press delete or backspace, depending on what operating system you're using. And also this lock function, for instance, if I click that, it means that it's very difficult to delete. It might give me a warning option and say, are you sure you want to remove it? All right, so just keep that in mind if it is locked, because if it isn't, and I hit that or the backspace or delete button, it will delete it without asking me. So keep that in mind. Right, have a quick look at this in terms of settings. Now, as mentioned, pretty much most of these drawing tools will have their own different settings. Some of them have style tab, text tab, coordinates or visibility. Some have others or fewer as well. So again, you could change the color here. You could change these points in terms of whether it be just a normal dot or an arrow. That's entirely up to you. Most trend lines don't extend, i.e., starting point, end point. If you wanted them to extend, you could extend the left line, your starting point, or the right line, your end point, and that could extend all the way through. Most trend lines, this tool is generally a short line that is drawn. There are other options that do extend all the way through or just to the one side, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, if you wanted a middle point, you want to be able to pull that, you could do that. Now, one of the interesting things is if you toggle that on, you'll see that little green number there and that green number there. That just shows where you ended and where you started. You don't need to necessarily have that on. It's entirely up to you, but play around with it. All right, the rest of this, we generally keep all the information hidden because it starts getting a very busy. Your charting area, you would have remembered from earlier lessons within this TradingView Module 1, we try keep the charting area quite clean. So yeah, if you wanted to have all of these on in terms of how many bars, as in how many candles, how many days since the starting point and the end point or the percentage difference, sure, you could have that. You could include that difference between that point there and that point is a 26.53% change, etc., etc. All right. You can also just put where the stats are going to be. So for instance, we wanted that percentage change. It's at the moment on the right-hand side. You could have it in the center. You could have it on the left, etc. You guys get the picture, right? You can literally play around with all of that. I'm going to keep it clean. Lovely. Now, when it comes to adding text, as mentioned, you can either hover over there generally in the middle, and that'll appear, and you can literally just click and start typing, or you can actually come over here, change not only the font size, the color, bold, and italic. You can also add in some text. All right. Where do you want it? On top of the line? Do you want it in the middle of the line? Do you want it on the bottom of the line? Okay, again, you guys can see where you want to be able to play with this. Generally makes most sense top and center if that's what you want to do. Coordinates are just to do with where in proximity on the X and Y axes. You don't have to worry about that because, again, you can click that and drag it and reposition. And then when it comes to visibility, and again, this applies to all of these other tools, when it comes to the actual settings of these lines that you're going to draw, is that you want to be able to make sure that it is visible. This trend line, if you're going to change from a day to a week time frame or a 4 hour or whatever it might be, or hours, this is 1 to 24 hours. So if I change now to a 4 hour or 1 hour, the same trend line will be visible. We generally don't look at seconds. Minutes, perhaps, if you're going to learn how to scalp trade, that would be a good option, perhaps. But again, it depends on why you're using a trend line. And that's going to be covered really when we get into basic TA, basic technical analysis. All right, so quite simply, when you're done, you click OK, and there it is. You all just hopefully now followed along and drawn your very first trend line in. And as mentioned at some later point, Steph will be probably covering some basic technical analysis and how we use these trend lines. Fantastic. Go ahead, go practice. And then when you guys come back, we'll be covering in lesson 8 a little bit more on the rest of these trend lines that we utilize in TradingView. Until then, thanks for joining.